Can I get you to please draw the axes and label them, and draw the supply and demand curves. We're going to use the motor vehicle industry as the example, so I'll put down motor vehicle, and in brackets I'll put Australia, because as always these curves represent the domestic industry and not the international sector. So we have the demand and supply curve. So subsidies are grants that the government provides to domestic producers to help support them. Okay, so they're just helping the domestic sector compete with imports by providing them grants and money rather than changing the price. So the way that we need to start is by putting the world price. So if the country is importing, the world price will be above or below the domestic price? Below. Okay, so same thing as before. We'll draw a solid line to represent the supply curve. So world price over here, supply F, foreign supply, again perfectly elastic. The world can supply as many motor vehicles at that price as Australia demands, unlimited amount, or at least enough to satisfy Australia's needs. So the difference for subsidies is that the price doesn't change. Okay, so the price doesn't change, but we need to demonstrate what happens using this graph, which kind of looks like a price change, but please remember the price does not change. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to label where the economy starts and then where it ends up after the subsidy. So if we wanted to draw or indicate how much is being supplied by the domestic producers, or supplied by domestic motor vehicle producers, what would we look at? So what would be the intersection point? What were the two things? So the first one is the price, the second is? Yep, so about what curve would the price line intersect with to determine how much is being produced? Yeah, supply curve, okay. So this is the point where price intersects with supply. So what about if we want to determine how much consumers would want? Yep, it's the price and the demand curve, so it's over there. So quantity 2, Q1, Q2. Alright, so before subsidy we'll put up here Q1 is quantity supplied by domestic producers, and Q2 is quantity demanded by domestic consumers. Okay, so things will change as a result of the subsidy. So at the moment, how much is being imported? So think back to when we did the benefits from imports model. So if I were to ask you how many cars are being imported, what would you say using these two numbers or these two terms? Yeah, so Q2 take Q1. Alright, so that's how much is being imported, this whole area. Q2 take Q1. But things will change with the subsidy. So how we demonstrate this is, let's assume that the government provides a subsidy to a car manufacturer, I'll say, of $5,000. So it's a small firm, let's say, but just an example. And the firm produces 500 cars, or the industry rather, the industry produces 500 cars $5,000 is a subsidy. If we wanted to calculate the per unit benefit of the subsidy, we would simply divide the subsidy amount by the number of units produced. Okay, so that would end up being 10. So $10 is the per unit subsidy, and that is how much we increase the award price by. But again, remember what I said, the price doesn't actually change. This is just a way to represent that subsidy in the graph. Alright, so what we will do is I will assume that S over here, oh, actually I shouldn't use S because S is already used for subsidy, for supply. I'll use PS, price subsidy. Okay, so that is the effective price once we include or incorporate the subsidy